What's up, guys? This is Thursday. We are in second period, and today we're going to look at some questions I've been getting before the break, still in this quarter, but before the break we had a couple assignments on CodeHS. If you remember, they're on here in these two spots, and they're right here in this section called Advanced HTML and CSS. We're not going to do all these. I'm going to assign a few that I like, but these are really nice lessons about general stuff that applies anywhere. So even if you take a different class next year that doesn't use HTML, maybe it uses Python or something else, you'd still use these ideas of making something with multiple files or writing your code in efficient ways, separating it into chunks and categories, and you might not use the exact word, but it'll be the same concept. But last time, one of the assignments was this one, the multi-file website, and I got some people who asked in class, and I showed one person on the screen, and then I got some people who emailed me, and I tried to answer them, but I'd rather do it all at once, and if anybody asks in the future, I can just send them this video and say, hey, here's an example of what you need. So I'm going to click on this one first, I think, the add a style sheet, because that one's pretty easy, but it does take a little bit of a new angle on it, or it might just be finding the right button to click. So adding a style sheet. This is not new. Everything we've done in this class has a style sheet. If you did the chatbot project, the trivia project before that, those all had a CSS file in the project. You know, maybe it was on Replit instead of on CodeHS, and they might have a different interface, but maybe they had it for you as part of the template instead of you adding it. But it was all the same idea. This is not really new. So what they want is the final product to look like this, where it's got a heading, some bullets, and some images. And the page, when they give it to you, has those things, but they're not organized the right way. They want you to change the font and change the size and stuff like that. So I'm going to hit let's go, and unfortunately I already did this and it saved it, so you're not going to see me type the thing from scratch like you would if it was on yours. But we're going to look at the steps of the assignment, or the steps of the grading and what it asks for, and then we'll go through that. So I think test cases is what I want. Yeah, if you hit check code, then it's going to give us the criteria, and again, mine are already in there because I did it a while ago, and it doesn't start from scratch when I click it again. But let's see what you got to do. So if you click right here on the file section, it starts with an index.html, but I don't think it starts with style.css, so you have to add it by hitting new, file, and then you type style.css. Okay, and then you hit add file. It makes it, and it would be blank, and you type the stuff. Now the nice thing is CSS doesn't need a header, a bunch of syntax stuff at the top. You know, if you're making an HTML, you got to start with HTML, head, title, body, that kind of thing. And CSS, it really doesn't. I mean, you can just do whatever you want in any order, and it's pretty good. So that's the first part, is you hit this little icon to go to the files, and then you hit new and add one, and then you give it the name. In theory, you can give it whatever name you want, but this particular assignment asks you to call it style.css, so we're going to do that. Okay, if you guys remember from Replit, if you ever do a file in Replit, it's a similar idea. You hit new, it might be plus, it might use the word add instead of new, but it's the same idea, and you add something. And we've done that in all of our projects. They have an HTML, they have a JavaScript, they have a CSS, and one of them has a fourth thing, which is the RiveScript code for the chatbot. Some of those are already in the template and not created by you, but it doesn't matter. Once it's there, it doesn't know how it got there, whether you made it or somebody else made it in the past. Okay. So the second step on this one was saying all images should be 100 by 100, And the way you do that is in the CSS. Okay, you can change the size of an image in the HTML, and the image I could put like, height equals whatever, and then width equals whatever, but that's one at a time. And if I wanted to change this image and this one and this one and this one, I don't want to type it 6 times because that's more work now. It's also more work later if I want to change. If I think, oh, I want them to all be 150 instead of 100, then I would have to change one, another. Instead of, if I set the rule in here, I do it once, and if I want to change it, I change it once, and it's all filtering through to catch them all instead of making sure that I have to be perfect and not miss any. So those are some of the benefits of CSS. Another benefit, which we'll see soon, is that it can apply to multiple HTML pages and not just one. So anyway, the way to type these is really, really easy. You type img, meaning that we're going to apply this to everything with the img tag. And then you type a curly bracket. Okay, so like pretend that I was starting from scratch and that's gone. You go img curly bracket, and then you hit enter, and it'll fill in the other half of the curly brackets, and it'll give you a blank line to type in. And then you can type the stuff that it asks for, which is, you can't do the dimensions all at once. You have to do height and width separately. So you go height, colon, 100px. You don't have to do a space after the colon, but I usually like to make it easier to read. And you do have to put a semicolon at the end, so that's one thing that is not just CSS. JavaScript does the same thing. You put a semicolon at the end of the line to show that it's the end of a statement. And then we're going to do the same guy on here, 100px. It might even fill in the semicolon for you if you don't remember. But one way to tell that it's good is that it'll adjust the colors. Like if you see the values are in blue and the unit is in this light purple, you will be having a hint that it's right. And if it's not, if it's like, black text, you'll know that something's off and maybe you have a typo. So that would give you this criteria. All images should be 100 by 100. Not labeling each one in here, but doing it through here, setting the rule that applies to all of them. Okay, and the next thing says all li tags should have the font size 24 pixels. That's li is short for list, and it's talking about those bullet points we saw in the beginning. If you remember, we hit run and you get these items in bullet points. Okay, that's called an unordered list with a UL, but if it was an ordered list with numbers, you can do that too. A couple variations. They all use that li tag. We don't want to label this one a font size, this one a font size, this one a font size. We want to do it all at once and set the rule. So you do that in the CSS. You put li, curly bracket, hit enter, and then you want to set the font to be a certain size. And I remember when I was showing this to someone in class when they were asking about it, I didn't remember. I was like, do you do font size as one word or is it a hyphen or whatever? And the way you look those up on CodeHS, I mean, you can Google it any way you want, but the way you look them up on CodeHS is you hit this tab in the top middle here called Docs. And that's not Google Docs. That means documentation, like sort of the user manual. And so you hit that, and then you scroll down to what you want. I look for CSS, text and font, and then it gives you some of the attributes that you're going to mess with. So font size, font family, and they all have a hyphen in the middle. So I'm going to go font size hyphen colon. You don't have to do a space, but I like to. And 24px because that's what they asked for. Then you do semicolon. Then you can add extra spaces. You can do whatever, but this has got to be 24px with a semicolon. Now, when you run, it will have the text the right size, it'll have the images the right size, and it will fulfill the requirements for that assignment. that's the first one people asked about. Now, without making this video super long, I'm going to go to the second thing people asked about, which is the next assignment. I'm going to close this and go to this one. I think it's this one called dividing the site. Okay. Again, I've already typed this in when I was showing someone else, and it's saved, so you're not going to see me start from scratch, but you'll see the, the answer, and I'll mention how we got there. So it's saying we've got a page with a link to another page, and that one has a link back to the home page. This is obviously one of the common ways to set up a website is you have your home, or it's usually called index, and you'll link to some side page. Maybe, the classics are like contact. You go to the contact page and email the person, and then maybe you go back to the home page. And this one starts you with one of those. You have to add the other two, and then you have to add a CSS to give them a design. So let's do that. I go to this little file button over here, and again, I've already added these, but you'll start with just the index, and then you go new file. Doesn't matter what order you do them in. One of them is called scripting.html. You type that, hit add. One of them is called compile.html. You type that, hit add. One of them is called style.css. You type that and hit add. Remember last time I said the CSS can start from scratch and you just go, but the HTMLs, they need this little setup at the beginning, like the HTML head, etc. And what I would do is just copy it from the other one. Just like copy this chunk from the top, and then you won't have to type it again, because this has the language stuff that you need, just like saying what sections are, but it also has the link to the CSS, because the CSS is not magic. It doesn't just infect everything around it. It only has power over the things that mention it in this little line up here, the link, style sheet, type, and then href is your path to it. So you can use this, this whole chunk maybe at the top of this guy and this guy, and all you have to do is change the title part. That'll save you some time of typing them. So what are they going to do? Well, let's look again at the criteria for the assignment. You should have one called compiled. Great. You should have one called scripting. Yep. We talked about that. Index should have 2 links. Okay. That doesn't mean like to google.com, but that means a link to this other page we just made and a link to this other page we just made. So when you're doing that, you use the link syntax that we've talked about before. It's called A, and then href gives you your path, but we don't have to put http://www. We just say the name of the file because it's in the same universe as our index. It's in the same folder on the same server, and that means we can do this name instead of a long URL. Then you give it some text that will be clickable. Then you close the tags. This is an li tag, a list, just like the stuff on the last one. And so these will link to the other pages. If you want to look at the run version, here's one. Boom, it goes to the other guy. And then it gives you a link back to here. So that was the next assignment, I think. Yeah, each one should have one link back to the main part, which is right here. So they do same stuff, even simpler this time because it's not in the li tags. It's just one single guy. And let me move my webcam thing because it's in the corner. Those are pretty simple. Next we have compile.html should have 4 li tags, and they were talking about like the theme of like, oh, what's this website about, and you're going to be mentioning like actual content, but you don't have to. When I did this, I just said here's one, here's another, here's another. You could type ASDF in each one. The CodeHS is checking for the syntax and do you have the stuff, but it's not really like reading it and seeing if you had the meaning behind it, you know. And then it says scripting should have 6 li tags, so we get that over here. Again, I just put simple stuff that doesn't have any thought behind it, but you can try to match their example if you want. And then list tag should have a font size of 18. That was in the style. Remember, we are not changing each little guy. That would be annoying, especially now that we have multiple pages. We're saying once li font size 18, done. All the pages get this rule and they apply this rule. And if we want to change, if we want to say, hey, we're going to make our lists a little bit smaller, we're going to make them 14. Giving somebody the job to change this one and this one and this one and this one and these 6 would be terrible because it would take time and you might miss one and all that. But if you just set the rule here, boom, done. That means they all have to have this line of linking up to it at the beginning, but they do, especially since you probably followed my advice and copied the top section and didn't even have to type it again. It's not showing it here on these green check marks, but it also asks you to do these things. Make the font Arial. How do you do that? Font family. Again, I would probably look that up in the docs section because I don't always remember the specific wording. And then it gives you the hardest one, and this is what people ask about for sure, is it says links should be a very light color. And the link tag is just A, remember. It gets A, href, and sometimes other stuff, but the core base of it is just A. And then color, you could do a RGB value, like with hexadecimal. It's got like 2 digits for red, 2 for green, and you know those where it like goes up to F because it's going up to 16. Those are a little hard, but in here you can find, I think it's in the docs part, you can find a color chart. Where the heck is it? Where oh man, where is it? Somewhere I found a link to a chart of colors, and it just said like, here's someone. You scroll to the bottom, and it has the really light ones, and one of them was called light sea green, so we used that. Fortunately, I can't find it at the moment because when I showed people this, it was before spring break. But click on these guys until you see it, and you'll get the light sea green. And where do we find that? It's right here. These links, they don't look like the normal blue of a link. They look like this sort of softer, greener link stuff. So that, I hope, answered your guys' questions, and I hope that now you can do these assignments if you were stuck. If anybody emails me, I'll just link them this video now. Also, make sure you do the assignment from last time. Looks like I've only got 7, so I need some more. And hey, look, due today. So I might add in some grades. I might wait until people turn them in during the class now. And then soon we'll move on to our project using this idea from the brainstorming thing. So I want to get that as well. Thanks. Where's my thing? Okay. So we had a couple viewers there.